Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're listening or watching from in the world. Of course, welcome back to the Yout Turnt show right here on GBKM FM. Of course, I'm your host, Romain Redman, and you'll be locked in with us from 3 p.m. until 4 p.m. right here on GBKM FM. Don't forget, this is where we aim to inform, empower, and of course, energize today's youth as they take on the world. We're living in a new reality right now. 2021 certainly dragged along its baggage from 2020, but of course, we will prevail. Don't forget, we are live on our platforms on Facebook at GBKM TV, also at Great Benin Kingdom Media. You can also get us on YouTube, it's GBKM TV. You can also get us on the TuneIn app, it's GBKM. And don't forget our website, www.gbkm.fm. And the newest addition to our platforms, our apps are live. Yes, that's for Apple and Android phones. You can get us from the Play Store or you can get us from the Apple Store and take us with you wherever you go in the world. So last time on the show, we had such a great discussion about the future for Brampton 2021, and what that looks like as we go into 2022. This week we take a different turn, but to look at things at a much larger scale. And you don't want to miss out on this conversation as my special guest here virtually in studio. We're still sticking with the protocols here. And don't forget, you at home, please also do that. Stay home, stay safe, and protect your loved ones. Now, we'll take our very first break on the show, but we'll be right back with so much more. Stay.
Do you know who you are? What is your name?
Sometimes you wonder why and wonder how. Don't be alone, just stay calm, cause even if you choose or not to.
My child, recite the words of this ancient mythology. The wisdom I disperse in this verse, no apology. Memorized to keep you from evil theology. For you, the dark of you, you're denied your equality. See, for generations we perpetrated psychology. Divide and conquer each other, really lynch policy. You cannot build each other up, how will you build economy?
Yeah, this is Dr. Rod, the boss of all bosses, and if you don't know, then it's your losses. You're watching GBKM.TV. Yeah, this is Dr. Rod, the boss of all bosses, and if you don't know, then it's your losses. You're watching GBKM.TV.
And of course, welcome back to the show right here on the GBKM FM. Of course, you haven't missed anything as yet. We just returned from our very first break, but so much to come on the show. And without any further ado, let's just jump right in it here. So 2020 has definitely given us an insight as to how 2021 should be. But the decisions that we're making in 2021, how are those informed by your experience from 2020? Well, of course, here in studios with me this week to discuss all about that, Canada 2021 and beyond, is of course Member of Parliament for Brampton North, MP Ruby Sahota. Ms. Sahota, of course, welcome back to the show here with us.
Hi, Romain. It's a pleasure to be back, and I really like that whole good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are. I think I'm going to take that from you because often it's quite confusing when you don't know when the video might air. But thank you for having me back on it. I'm looking forward to today's discussion.
Well, we like to share here, so definitely you can have a go at that. But of course, welcome back. And as I always like to check in, how have you been during the past? The last time you were here was in May, if I'm not getting that correct. But it has been some 8 months, 7 months. How have you been during that time period?
Yeah, I think the last time I was here, it was a very overwhelming time for the federal government, and I'm sure at all levels of government, and for all Canadians as well, because I was hearing from many Canadians, and I would say the first several months of this pandemic, people and businesses, municipalities, there was real panic as to what the coming year was going to look like. And I don't think at that time we really thought of 2021 so much. It was all about getting through 2020. And we did get through 2020. There were many programs that were rolled out by the federal government. We were in the midst of all those rollouts, I think, when I was last on your show. After that, things did, in terms of government, things are always busy. Of course, there's always something new happening, but a lot of the programs, since they were already rolled out all we had to do was sometimes either adjust the programs or extend the programs depending on the need. And so it became a little bit easier as the year went on in terms of how are we going to support Canadians. And now we are in 2021, and that question still goes on as to how long are we going to support Canadians? How long do we, in what specific sectors are we going to invest so that we can have good growth in the economy in the coming years? We know that there is going to be a tough time in this year when it comes to the economy, but we are trying to figure out, as our budget is going to roll out in the coming month, what things can we focus on now that are not only going to support Canadians, but are also at the same time going to create more jobs and stimulate the economy. So I think our focus is very, narrow. I know that people are looking for investments in all things that are important to them, but our focus is going to have to be on how we can do those two things at the same time. So where those things meet and intersect, support that is going to cause economic growth and creation of jobs.
Absolutely. And talking about really coming out strong in 2021, I mean, this past week alone has been such quite an eventful week. I mean, new head of state to the south, or head of state vice that is stepping down. But the importance of the relationship with us and the U.S., though, President Biden's first call was to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, just laying out some of those expectations as we try to not only build back relationship. We know we're coming from that period where we had a struggle over the new NAFTA. We had that struggle over aluminum industry where we literally had a trade war. But how important was that first call, though, to us and not, let's say, anywhere else in the world?
Yeah, we're very pleased and happy that we have a return to tradition and that the U.S. president has made his first call to the Prime Minister Trudeau, which happened on Friday. And I believe that conversation went quite well. Mr. Biden and President Biden and Prime Minister Trudeau have had conversations about the relationship between Canada and the U.S. In different capacities in the past as well. But it's very important in the current capacities that they're in right now that they discuss what they see our partnership looking like in the years to come. And it's really important that I've seen through the executive orders that Biden has been putting through that for the most part, we may have our differences when it comes to Keystone XL, but for the most part, we do have a lot of similar views when it comes to stimulating growth in our economies, supporting trade across our borders, the environment, which we have seen we did not necessarily have a strong partner in the last administration when it came to the environment. And so we really think that through our close relationship with the United States, we're actually going to be able to make large inroads when it comes to movement on this issue. And so,
and also in the general recovery.
Pardon me?
And also in the general recovery from COVID-19, economic, social.
Absolutely. And then we saw the $1 trillion package that was introduced there. And it's very much in line with the types of programs that we've created for Canadians as well. So, there is a synergy of thinking when it comes to the new administration. And I think what's most important, especially after Canadians sat there horrified watching their television screens after the events that had happened and the Capitol prior to the inauguration,
over 3 weeks.
The takeover of the Capitol. We feel a kinship to the United States, and when the United States is going through a difficult time like that, I know that many Canadians were very concerned and worried about what this means for the future of our democracies. And I was very pleased to see that they had a press briefing right away in the United States the very first day after, right after the inauguration. We're no longer treating our media as the enemy of the people. They are the friend of the people, and honest media with integrity is what we need to uphold our democracies. And so it's really great to see that that is something that we also share in common, that we invest, we help, we treat our media and allow them that space to criticize us as well,
Yes.
as bring that information to people. But that is going to be very important in building back our democratic partner down south.
And talking about building back is dependent upon, of course, and we're taking just a little shift here. Vaccines. Vaccines are definitely on the agendas for each and every nation right now. I know President Biden has literally put out what was absent was a vaccination rollout plan. We ourselves here have just some hiccups there in terms of the rollout in provinces due to jurisdictional issues, essentially, or Premier telling our Prime Minister to focus on that while he focuses on the health in the province and long-term care. But talking about vaccines, though, and the vaccine procurement, how is that going? We currently have some 3 approved vaccines, Pfizer, Moderna, and which others?
We've got 2 approved vaccines, and we've got a portfolio of about 7 vaccines that we think are going to be potentials for our country. We've invested $1 billion into the agreements for vaccines, and so I think we have a very strong basis that we have started from. And there has been a hiccup, like you have said, that the Pfizer plant in Europe they have slowed down so that they can actually scale up and pick up in the future. So they are reconfiguring things in order to keep up with their agreement. We haven't seen any indication, though. I've had conversations with our Minister of Procurement, Anita Anand, as well on this issue, and we haven't, in her conversations with Pfizer, we haven't seen any indication that at this point that they won't be able to keep up with their agreement that they have with Canada. So I think through the different quarters of the year, we are, and you've heard it from the Prime Minister as well in very strong words, that we are on track to receiving the same amount that we were always going to receive in the first quarter, the second, and onwards. And so we are still going to try to have everyone vaccinated in this country that would like to be vaccinated by September. Yes, there is some finger pointing that maybe perhaps is happening from the provincial level. But we also did see, and I have to say that most Canadians want to see us work together, and the Prime Minister has reached out to all of the premiers, and even this week and in previous weeks as well, when we saw that they were having difficulty in rolling out the vaccines that they had on hand. And so I think that we're trying to be there to support and figure out where the mishaps may have happened, where the complications may have occurred in the first rollout, because we did see we had those vaccines on hand. The provinces had them delivered to them back in December, but there were still delays in getting those vaccines into arms. And so the Prime Minister has had those conversations to find out how we can help, how we can provide resources. We've also provided more beds to the province of Ontario, a mobile unit with over 200 beds to help support the hospitals in the GTA. And we'll continue to roll out any support that's needed. I think the Premier, Mr. Ford, should really be trying to ramp up and look at what went wrong in that first rollout, and how they're going to make sure that the second one is much more successful, because when these vaccines are coming our way in March, they're going to be coming at a very, very fast pace. And so we've got to be ready for that. We're going to have millions of vaccines coming in per week. And we saw what happened with the first million, approximately, that the rollout was very slow. I know that people are eager in my community, especially seniors in independent living communities, because they know that long-term care has been getting the vaccines, as they should. They were, in a crisis situation. Healthcare workers are starting to get the vaccines. as they should. But there are also other people that are really anxious in my community that want to get that vaccine as well. We've got 70, 80-year-olds that are living independently, but they're living in fear, and they are getting impatient by the day. So I'm hoping that we can be involved and our feedback can be taken at the provincial level as well as we assist in this rollout.
Wonderful. And talking about the speed of delivery, just by a report put out by, of course, Minister of Procurement, Mr. Dan. So she estimates that by June, based upon the approved vaccines, we'll have 13 million. By July, September, 36 million. Based upon all the procurements that have happened, or that we have actually reached out to get. By Q3, which is July to September, that's some 73 million. That's if we get all that we have essentially placed an order for. But based upon what we do have approval for now, which is Pfizer, Moderna, as you said, it's 36 million by July, September. But that's a 9 to 5, that's first dose, essentially, then.
Well, different provinces are taking different approaches when it comes to that, as if they're, some provinces are reserving vaccine to provide the second dose as well. In terms of the agreements, we do have enough for 4 times our population for complete doses for the first and second that have been secured through these agreements. So we are hoping that, like Minister Anita Anand has said, with all those vaccines coming in, we would still be on track, like the Prime Minister has said, to have all those that need the vaccine by September. And I think that is still quite optimistic. And we have to go back and look at what we were thinking last year as well. Like, we are currently in this situation, but if we look back to last fall, I don't think anyone anticipated the vaccine rollout to even have happened in December as quickly as it did. So the progress is quite good. In terms of G20 countries, Canada may be going through a little hiccup right now because of manufacturing, but we're still 5th in line when it comes to G20 countries. And so we're doing quite well, and we will be catching up. And I don't think we've ever seen a vaccine ever before roll out this quickly, and the science and research that it takes behind it to have happened at this pace. So we should be very, we're very fortunate, and we should be very grateful that our scientists have worked tremendously hard to be able to get us these vaccines, because I don't think last year we thought even come this spring that we would be in the position we are now, but which is a good position to be in.
It's absolutely great, but come to even think of that though, 95%, 100% vaccination coming in September, July, September, that still doesn't mean we can return to going to the basketball games, doing the movie theater by December. That still is not an indication that that will be possible, because we're still hearing about masking that will be required at least up to 2022, 2023, going into possibly 2024.
Yeah, stock up on those masks and keep them close. So it definitely does not mean that we are going to be removing all the precautions that our public health has rightfully given us. The precautions that we've been told to take are really the safest measures in order for us to protect ourselves from COVID-19. And so we can't forget what, the most simplest information that we have been giving to Canadians all along throughout this pandemic. And of course, I think we've also seen about 8 million Canadians download the COVID Alert app. That's another tool that you can use. So download that app. There has been the take up was slow, but we have seen that more and more people have been downloading that app as we've been informing Canadians about it. And that can really help our public health units to make sure that they don't have to do the tracing work that is needed. And we've seen that a lot of them have not had the capacity to do the tracing that is needed. So this app is a wonderful way for you to be alerted when you have been in the presence of somebody who may have contracted COVID-19. And so it's simple. Mask up, wash your hands, keep your distance, download the app. it can only help you. And so we're going to continue to push that message throughout the year.
Yes.
Of course, we are hopeful that some things will resume. These stay-at-home orders that have been put in place now by the province, we're seeing some success of those orders as the numbers roll out. However, we're definitely far from being in the clear, but we are hoping that in the coming weeks and months, we will be able to get through the second phase and have some return to normalcy. It won't be the normal you remember of 2019, of course, but it will get better.
Absolutely. And talking even with the current orders that are in place, stay-at-home lockdown, the new travel restrictions that are put in place, some persons did make a fuss about it in the sense that why weren't some of these measures in place during couple months ago when the first wave hit real hard and all this stuff. We're talking about 5-year-old and older requiring proof of being negative, mandatory 14-day for nationals not being allowed in if they have any symptoms of the disease, and so much more. Even machines have been installed at our terminals.
Well, Romaine, we're taking the advice of our public health officials and really travel after we've seen COVID-19 become a community spread issue. Initially, of course, travel, we did see major restrictions on travel back in March, in April, when the virus was coming from outside of the country. But after that, it had become a community spread disease. And so only 2% is what we're seeing related to travel. And so, of course, there were demands that, certain actions be taken, but we're still going to side with the scientific evidence that is showing us what the best measures in place are. And truly speaking, even though that these other measures have been put in place right now, it may stop a little bit of that 2%, but nothing is going to stop it better than the 14-day quarantine period. And that's why that period has been in effect the whole time since March. We have required that all travelers quarantine for 14 days upon return. Those are some of the harshest measures in place in any country in the world right now, where they've really loosened up on their quarantine measures. Some countries only requiring a week and others not even requiring one at all, as long as you have a COVID-19 test that has been done. Now, a COVID-19 test is a good added layer, but it doesn't prove necessarily that you may not have contracted the virus on your trip back, because it all depends on the time of testing. So we've done our best to put that measure in place where you have to have the test done within 72 hours of traveling. But that's going to create a big issue for some people in certain countries where you're not able to get the test done within that period of your flight. And so we're hoping that in a way this also discourages people from even traveling in the first place. I think the Prime Minister came out very clear originally in this pandemic for people not to travel. Our global affairs minister and our ministry has consistently put up travel advisories and warnings.
And he also made it clear in a tweet not too long ago.
And yes, and I'm continuing to try to echo what the Prime Minister is saying too. And throughout this week in all of his press conferences, he has said, do not travel. And there may be more measures coming in the weeks ahead. And so I know that I was up day and night throughout the beginning of this pandemic trying to get Canadians back home along with my staff. And we worked incredibly hard to try to repatriate Canadians. But honestly speaking, there was some frustration even on our part that there were Canadians, those that made their best efforts to get back home after they had heard the warnings, but there were others that just didn't think anything much of the warnings, and they continued to stay wherever they were, and and they had a really hard time and a challenge getting back home. And of course, we did our best to help them, and we did. But this time, I think we are hearing a sterner warning that those same supports and that same sympathy may not be there this time around, because we should know better this time around.
Yes.
We've lived through the first wave. We know what types
Talking
of
about
measures
learning
can be
from
taken.
2020 to inform decisions in 2021. But here's
Absolutely.
also another perspective. Mayor Brown, in an op-ed, I think 2 months ago, posited that we should be thankful, essentially, even though the numbers are rising, but because these were persons really feeding Canadians and Bramptonians in the food service industry, who has to make those runs across the border, who has to go the long distances, and who has to do the job of keeping Canadians fed and healthy.
Absolutely. We do have a lot of essential workers that live in Brampton. They live in my riding, those that work in food processing, manufacturing, those that work, we're continuing to order things online. We have a lot of Amazon warehouse workers. There have been cases in when it comes to Canada Post as well, those that are making our deliveries, those that are in our grocery stores, and those that are driving our trucks to and the US and across this country in order to make sure the supply chain stays strong. So I actually, in Brampton, we have the highest number of people that work in the transport industry. And so I know that many of them are my constituents, and we do thank them. And we have many in healthcare as well. So I would say that there are so many Bramptonians that these stay-at-home orders don't necessarily apply to, because they're essential and they're still out there working, and they're working so that some of us can stay home to try to mitigate the spread and make sure that they stay safe at the same time. So the less of us that are out there, the better. But we salute and we thank our frontline workers, that's for sure.
Absolutely, and even continuing on that though, because part of the part you said support. The last time we were here, we spoke about the launch of the CERB, the CWS, and all those amazing support programs. But now the newest one, the newest edition, well, not so much support, but more of a credit, the tax credit that is coming out. CERB is still extended. CERB, CEWS, that's
Yeah.
the, of course, wage subsidy. That one has been extended also. But now we have the new tax credit also.
Yeah, everything's been extended generally up to June, and obviously that we will reassess at that point as well. You've heard from the Prime Minister and over again that we are there to support Canadians, and we will do it as long as it takes. Us supporting our businesses and supporting Canadians essentially is an economic recovery plan in itself, right? So it's really important that Canadians understand that if we don't support, if we don't take on this deficit now, we will be in for some very hard times. And we're trying to make sure that our unemployment numbers are not as high as they could be if we don't support Canadians. The tax credit that you're talking about is basically I think the home office expense,
Yes.
the credit that your deduction that you're talking about. So
That
we
is
CRA
correct.
has
So 50% of your time working at home over 4 consecutive weeks, you're eligible. That's one level of eligibility, $2 for each day, plus $2 for additional days, maximum $400 per individual or per
Absolutely.
person.
So originally, the difference that we've made here is that this tax deduction existed before, but prior to this, you had to get a T2200 form signed by your employer in order to benefit from this tax deduction. Now, up to $400, you don't have to have any form filled out by your employer, which makes it a lot simpler for many. So you're able, up to the $400 point, take this tax deduction very easily on your taxes. And I know many people have been working from home, so a lot of people will be able to benefit on, and we're trying to promote this tax deduction as well. In the past, people may not have realized that this even existed. But if you think that you are can claim more than the $400, you're still eligible, but you will still have to fill out that T2200 form from your employer. So up to the $400 deduction, very simple. After that, you fill out the form and you can still claim beyond that. There's been different tax deductions and credits that we've given. The GST tax credit was also given, and a lot of seniors benefited from that in 2020. And just at the turn of this year as well, we've the promise that we made when we were elected that the first $15,000 of income is going to become tax-free, taxed at 0%. That promise is going to be completed in 2023, but each year we are inching up closer. And so we're over the $13,000 mark this year. And so people will see a savings in their taxes as a result of that as well, that bracket expanding. And so we know that that's going to support many, many seniors and low-income people in our communities as well.
Absolutely. And even with that, because a part of the recovery, and we're talking about trying to support Canadians, we're talking about all that is needed, we're talking about the partnerships even overseas, but even support, even back home. Right now, I listen to, of course, Infrastructure Minister McKenna, who essentially made the bold statement that infrastructure development is going to be the way forward in helping on that path to recovery, including green infrastructure. I know China took the lead, not so much green in their recovery earlier last year in April. India also did some heavy investments in infrastructure. But infrastructure, though, what does that look like in the Canadian sense? We're talking about, over the summer, rapid housing project, $1 billion there. Some insight there, please.
Yeah, absolutely. The Rapid Housing Initiative that started back in the fall, that's basically a part of our plan to end homelessness by 50%. That investment is going to take current structures as well and be able to update them, make them livable, so old hotels, old apartment buildings, and give municipalities and local housing bodies to be able to apply to the Housing Corporation for funds through this that have projects in mind. So this is going to be a really important way that we, hit,
Targets.
to get two things at once, right? We've got the infrastructure projects going as well that creates jobs, but homelessness has been a real issue, and we need to make sure that we tackle that at the same time. So I think this is really important. Last year, we also had a big investment injection of money into the Peel region, the largest investment ever made into housing here as well. So we truly hope that the province also steps forward with their share in that investment. The city and the region have some very, they're looking at some very
we're talking about Riverwalk. We're talking about 38.8 million for Riverwalk, which I was talking with Councillor last week in regards to what does that mean for the city? What does that mean for the region in terms of economic development? That green recovery we keep hearing from both the city and the federal government, not so much on the provincial side, but huge investments there.
Yeah, I mean, and the Riverwalk projects is different from the housing project money
Yes.
that was given to the region of Peel. So they have an aggressive target here in Peel. We're happy to see that, and we're happy to support it. And the Riverwalk project, that's a project that's really close and near and dear to my heart, really, because since I've been elected, that project has been in the works. Even the previous council and the previous mayor worked really hard in educating all the levels on what unlocking the potential of the downtown core could mean to our city. So I know that this project may not at the surface sound,
As
and
enticing.
no pun intended there, but at the surface sound as exciting. But when you really look into this project, making sure that we tackle the issue of flood mitigation in our downtown core, which has inhibited us from being able to develop in that area. This is the key to unlocking many jobs and future growth and potential of our city. Oftentimes we compare our downtown core to that of Mississauga with similar similar histories of the two cities, but they did not have this challenge, the challenge that we have in our downtown core. So this Riverwalk project will really help solve that challenge. We'll then be able to create commercial and residential space. And we'll be able to look a little bit more like that typical downtown that you are used to, filled with tons of potential, filled with people. So I think it's going to be a complete revitalization of the city of Brampton. So I'm looking forward to that. It is a long-term project, though,
Yes.
of course.
Yes.
So it's not something that people are going to see the immediate results of, but you, in the next 10-year period, you will see that our city will be transforming from the core there.
And part of that transformation is a reality brought to us from COVID-19, the need for a hospital. Yourself, I know for your fellow MPs, also a couple of our MPPs and the City Council has been on the tails of the provincial government here to have a second hospital in the city. So will a part of that infrastructure investment, will the federal government essentially be invested in a project like that should it become greenlit?
Look, even the Riverwalk project will help when it comes to Peel Memorial. If there are expansion plans in that area, even that can be a benefit to the future of more hospital space. In terms of us helping build a hospital, that has not been done from the federal level before. The way our setup is not to be involved in that type of way when it comes to healthcare, but we transfer healthcare funds and money to the province. And now this is where there's a lot of frustration, I think, both on the part of us as representatives and Bramptonians as well, because they want to see the federal government. I continue to hear from people take the lead on something like this or place pressure so that we can see this next hospital, or at least Peel Memorial, expand into a full-fledged hospital and then have the third hospital on the go. But it doesn't really quite work that way. We are hoping that if there is some type of commitment made, there might be some ways we can come up with creative ways of helping invest in the future of that hospital space. But the commitment has to be made by the province as to where they're going to put up the next hospital. We're hearing some positive things from the provincial government. We did from the previous provincial government as well. They had promised to expand Peel Memorial into phase 2, creating the ER and further beds. However, there was a transfer of power at the provincial level, and so now we're hoping and waiting that the Ford government will make movement on this, and they've talked about it as well. So yes. I think everybody knows that the need is there. We Canadians and Bramptonians are just eager to see action on this front. So,
but essentially, if there is a way, then you will.
Absolutely. If there is a way for anything, we always have. But I have looked into this, and there has never been such a project across the country.
Yes.
So I think our expectations should also remain according to the division and jurisdictional powers that have been invested in the different levels of government. And so I think if you've got youth watching this program, or anyone watching really, they need to continue to advocate, and they need to continue to advocate to the right level of government that can make that call. And of course, if there is some way that the provincial government asks us to participate, then we're always there, and we will do so. But it is really the prerogative of the province as to whether we move forward with another hospital in this area. So it's fine. We're here to be your voice. It's fine if people continue to write to me about it and call me about it, and they want me to talk to the Ford government or their representatives about it, or the local MPPs. But a more direct way, and I think a more effective way of going about it, is if you also raise your concerns to the appropriate level at the provincial level, that is, and also, the municipal as well, because there's a partnership between the municipal government and the provincial government whenever there's any project in the city. If we're investing, it's a partnership between the municipal government as well. So they've got to make sure they've got the land secured and everything in place for the project to move forward.
Absolutely. And just pivoting on that then, The green recovery. The green recovery is essentially one that we're looking forward to. I know in the last economic statement you did take, well, the party essentially, Trudeau government essentially took some hit from the Greens, saying that it wasn't green enough. The NDP saying that it wasn't green enough. Well, we know the PC on their end said that it was probably a little too optimistic. We have to watch out for the deficit. But the green recovery, so essentially you have a new green plan. A new plan in place, 5 pillars, just for the viewers at home. So pillar 1, making affordable and efficient homes. Pillar 2, access to clean water and transportation. Pillar 3, carbon tax or carbon charge. Pillar 4, green industrialization. Pillar 5, protection of our ecosystems and our lands. But the first plan, we had a plan before, it wasn't fully achieved. So why a new plan though? Let's start there.
Well, we've put legislation forward in the House as well to make sure that we keep ourselves accountable. I think those are important steps for any government to take to make sure that situations don't occur that take us off track. We've legislated targets to be put in place so that we reach our goals, regardless of whether it's our government or future governments that come. It will be the law of Canada to be able to put policies in place that take us closer to meeting our targets. And so I think these are really good steps. And I think in terms of your question that the government may not have gone far enough, we've made sure that we've put in place measures and put in place pressure on ourselves even to make sure that that happens in the future. And so we are committed. We're very committed to making sure that we move in the direction that is good for our economy and good for our environment at the same time. And so even the investment that I know you wanted to cover auto a little bit, like sometimes it's easier to understand some tangible things that people can really see happening. And I think technology of battery operated vehicles, of fleets in Brampton, when it comes to buses, those are investments that we have been making sure that all of the investments that we're making, and even the Riverwalk project that we just talked about,
Absolutely.
that's a project that's related to the environment and making sure that disaster that we are seeing from floods and bad weather conditions caused by climate change, we're able to mitigate the negative effects of that. So I'm very optimistic and I'm very positive that the investments we also made in Ford, the Oakville plant, to make sure that they have an assembly for battery operated vehicles, that we're making those vehicles in our home. We're giving incentives to people to buy those vehicles. We also hope it can be combined with a provincial incentive again. We have an aggressive federal incentive, but there used to be a provincial one, and that often we've seen from studies has really changed consumer behavior. And it's really important that all levels of government have a shared concern when it comes to the environment, because of course this is a shared planet, our water resource, our energy resources, we're sharing everything on this planet. And I think more and more we're realizing that Canadians want to see all levels of government take action when it comes to climate change. And so you're going to see, even in our budget coming forward,
Yes.
there is going to be even more to come when it comes to climate change.
And as we talk about that, GM also just essentially reached a tentative agreement with Unifor to invest $1 billion, somewhere near $1 billion, to start manufacturing electric vehicles. So we're looking at a green future then for vehicles. We know we've already started with the buses that we have. A couple of the buses that we have are electric. So we're looking to go fully electric or carbon zero as much as we or closer to net zero as we possibly can with our transportation systems. We do have incentives if you purchase electric vehicles. We still have that going, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are still in place, and they'll continue to be in place. If anything, we're looking at how we can incentivize people even more.
But an integral part of this, and let's talk a little bit more about this new plan. So our strengthened climate plan, healthy environment, healthy economy. what I think we struggle with right now is that people fail to see how healthy can we get in terms of the environment while staying healthy as an economy. I kind of want you to merge both of those with this new plan that you have, healthy economy. So we have the powerhouse economy of Canada, while we're gonna try to do away with some of those explorations and carbon fuels, while keeping a healthy environment. We're trying to get to the Paris Agreement, which our partners to the south have just rejoined. Merge both using this new plan for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you've talked to innovators and different businesses, there are so many, and I know I like to give a little bit of a shout out to local people, Brantonians that have been working hard in this area as well. Randy and Akeem are two young entrepreneurs that have created an amazing new company making products out of hemp bricks in order to create future homes and buildings, infrastructure projects that would be created through these hemp bricks. And I think they'd be great to have on the show so they can explain
Absolutely.
how their patented technology that they've created and worked with other companies can also reduce carbon emissions in the future, can reduce the pollution in our environment through building through these new types of technologies and new types of resources. And at the same time, they've been growing jobs. They've started as a two-man show to now hiring other people, whether it was through the Canada Summer Jobs Program at first, and now expanding even beyond that. Having those, making those relationships with academia at the same time to do research and development, looking at how the government has been stepping forward in providing grants for new opportunities like this. So that's a small project, but even on a larger scale, our industry ministry and our different development departments have been looking at how we can incentivize companies to scale up when it comes to the right technology, green technology, how they can incorporate green technology, I guess, in scaling up and creating more jobs within their manufacturing. And we know manufacturing is the heart of Ontario, but many companies have been on board with the price on carbon as well. They have their own internal targets. Companies as big as Loblaws, they haven't been lobbying and fighting back on this price on carbon. If anything, they've already set their own targets for 2030. They've set their own targets for 2050. And what companies want to see is they want to see consistency with government. And that's why it was also very important for us to legislate certain targets and goals so that our industries and our sectors know what to expect in the years to come. Because if they have if they know what they're working towards, if they know what they're working with, the restrictions they're working under, yes, they're going to innovate and they're going to create ways to meet those targets and also create new products and new innovations for people. So I think it's an optimistic thing, and I think we're going to see a whole slew of highly skilled jobs, well-paying jobs for Canadians. I hear from a lot of young people that come out of engineering programs and other programs that find it tough sometimes to get into the workplace or to find that first well-paying job. So I think these are the jobs of tomorrow, and I think both things can definitely go hand in hand. Of course, that also means that there are certain sectors that are going to have a tougher time maybe reinventing themselves, and we are going to have to continue to invest in making sure that we can reskill, retrain individuals in those sectors and make sure that they have a place to land. And that's part of also helping in the energy sector that we currently have and have benefited from in this country. But I know that in the future, we will benefit from the green energy revolution that we are currently about to see and go through.
So what I'm getting from that essentially is that the linking healthy environment to a healthy economy is innovation.
Absolutely, it's innovation, and we've created different programs like the super clusters and a whole bunch of different ways that we can also make sure that industry and research are working together, and individuals on the ground, small organizations, can also have an opportunity to get involved so that they can innovate and they can come up with new ideas. And we've heard from our Brampton Board of Trade, and especially because I'd like to make everything local as well. And so I have heard from the Brampton Board of Trade how projects such as the superclusters has really helped, whether their companies or their clusters have won the bids or not, it still created those partnerships and put them in place. And once you create those partnerships, the sky's the limit of what they're going to create and what they're going to come up with for the future. So I think, I'm excited to see what a lot of our young people are going to be coming up with, because I know I have a lot of people walk through my office as well with some fantastic ideas, and they're going to make the difference in this sector, and they're coming up with ways to create jobs. So that's
And
going to be
myself, I'm absolutely intrigued at what the future holds. But just a quick detour from there, though, because a part of this recovery also depends upon not just securing the borders, as some people like to put it, but also ensuring that those outside of Canada try to get themselves on their own footing. Right, and just in part to that, there was a $485 million investment announced by, of course, the Minister of Foreign Affairs there in terms of helping developing nations really tackle COVID-19 and get themselves on track. How does that break down? Is that through vaccines only, vaccine procurement, or through other means such as technology that green recovery talk about?
Yeah, there's a couple of different, the funding is broken up into 2 or 3 different parts. Minister Karina Gould made that announcement a little while back, and it's our commitment when it comes to international development. It's a part of our international development work that Canada has always believed is at the core of our value system, that we need to also bring up and help other countries around us as well, with the luck that we have and the experience that we have, and even through our own procurement of vaccines. A part of that is going to be important when it comes to this this commitment. And you've heard that there's been some criticism also with the amount of vaccines we have secured, but you've heard from Minister Gould that yes, we have secured vaccines to make sure that Canadians are protected, but the ample supply that we have once Canadians are vaccinated, that is going to be to help our international efforts as well. And a part of it is procurement, that's for sure. But other work in order to help them rebuild as well in their communities. So I think it's good. And I mean, this money is given to organizations, not-for-profits that are doing work in different countries. And so there's many different not-for-profits that are going to benefit from this and be able to continue work in different countries that they're doing work in. So we know that we're not going to get out of COVID, this pandemic. It wouldn't be a pandemic if we could get out of it alone. We have to bring the world along with us. And so I think it's incumbent upon all countries to help each other out. And I think we're seeing that across the board too. I'm reading reports every day that different countries are providing supports to their neighboring countries as well.
Absolutely. So, that's what through New Zealand, Australia, they announced that they'll be procuring or sharing their procurement of vaccines with their surrounding Pacific Island nations, and wonderful stuff happening on that front. But Christ, how time does fly here when the conversation is so good. But before we wrap the show, though, we have to touch on something youthy really down to earth with the youth. And of course, I'm talking about the Summer Leadership Program, and I'm talking about, of course, the Summer Jobs Program. I know the Summer Leadership Program deadline ended on the 19th of January, but just tell us a little bit more about those two programs that we have.
Absolutely. And we were chatting a little bit before too, that often people are not aware of different programs. So it's just like a little bit of an alert.
Yes.
You know, keep, of course, look at things on social media that you are interested in, but I know that sometimes that also prevents us from seeing alerts and other news stories that might benefit or help us. So the Summer Leadership Program is one of those programs where youth can directly apply. It is run through our Liberal Research Bureau. It is more of a partisanship program in a way that our internal Liberal Bureau is the one that runs it. However, you're working in a member of Parliament's office. It's like a 16-week internship that you would get. This year, it's going to be a little bit different. The whole internship is going to be virtual, but we are hoping that in the years to come, we will be returning to our regular program. And through that internship, a lot of people have ended up with permanent jobs, whether it is in constituency offices or on the Hill in the Prime Minister's office, in our LRB, as I said, the Liberal Research Bureau, and various different ministries as well. So it's a great stepping stone into the world of politics and getting you some experience. You not only just get to work in a member of Parliament's office, it's a paid internship as well, I must add, that we make sure that it is an appropriately paid internship so that we are also providing support to young people and not just, you know, sometimes taking advantage through programs like this. But I think the experience part is what's most beneficial, I think, to young people and what they most want. And so you get training, formal training, through the Liberal Research Bureau. You get a 1 week program where you get training. There's constantly workshops and programs that they put on. You get to hear from different ministers and different people in working in politics. And so it's great. It's not just like having a summer job in MP's office. There's a little bit of an added benefit because you're going to be getting that extra training and attention from the party as well. So it's great, and I know that a lot of good people and people that are still in politics came through that program. So anyways, I wish good luck to everyone that's applied this year, and I'm hoping that next year you'll also keep an eye out for this program. It's called the Summer Leadership Program. So, you know, mark it and start looking out for it next fall as well for next summer's internships that you might be looking for. And then the Summer Jobs Program, we made that more flexible last year as well. We had extended it last year in 2020, and now applications are in progress right now for that program, and the capacity has been expanded to 50% more jobs that are going to be created through this program. So it's great. We've got about 120,000 jobs that you can get through this program. And I was just taking a look at when it closes. Friday, January 29th is when the applications for the Summer Jobs Program close. But a little caveat here, this is not a direct program that young people would apply to. The applicants for this program are employers. Employers apply to the Summer Jobs Program. So whether they're in the not-for-profit sector or whether they're in the private sector, they would be the ones that would be applying, and they would say that they have certain job openings available. Obviously, there's background checks and a whole bunch of things done so to make sure that this employer is qualified to take on summer jobs students. And then if they are granted for whatever project that they want to complete or do in the summer, they're granted through some review of the MP in the area as well, that funding. Then once they're granted that funding, they're able to hire on students through an open process through a job bank online portal. And so you can go and take a look at that in the spring. Go on to Canada Job Banks or download that app on your phone. And a lot of those summer jobs programs are going to be open for students to apply to. A change we also made that was based on something that I believe deeply in as well. Originally, this program was only for students when they were in the middle of their semesters. So it was for students that were going to be going back to school. But I thought, even more so, students that have just finished school also need the opportunity. And so perhaps they weren't able to get an opportunity for whatever reasons in the middle of their semesters. But why would we preclude students that have just graduated and are looking for a summer job position that may give them the experience they need to get into the career they want, or just the work experience maybe that they need on their resume to continue their job search. So it is for a young to older age now. There isn't the type of limits that program once had, and there's more job opportunities available. So keep an eye on that. And if you do have a not-for-profit, these jobs are paid 100% by the government. So you get the student, you get the employee, and somebody else, the government, is paying the salary of that employee. So this really benefits small businesses especially. And of course, we have ways to make sure that those are our priorities. And given that we want to make sure our businesses recover after this pandemic, I think this is going to be one of those perfect ways that they can get employees back in their businesses and helping them for the future.
Of course, and this is not only just an Ontario program, it's a Canada-wide program. Also. But of course, Member of Parliament, wow, we did cover a lot today, and I must say thank you so much for having joined me during this pivotal time. We've done an assessment from where we were last year, and right now we are positioning to do a fairly good job. How would you rate the positioning that you're at right now? What would you give that?
That's a good question. I think that it's hard for me to really rate. I think we've done everything possible in terms of programs for people. And so in that regard, I definitely, rate the performance of 10 on 10 in terms of supports for people. But of course, there are challenges we have, and sometimes blind spots that every government has. And learning from mistakes made and correcting them is a sign of a good government. And so I won't say that there haven't been errors and hiccups along the way, but I think we've been very open and receptive to trying to fix and correct those errors that have occurred along the way and learn from it. So I just want to say really to everyone, it wasn't done without the input and advice from people. Even my youth council, they have wonderful advice, and they open my mind in ways that others sometimes aren't able to. And so there's various ways you can be involved and in the political realm. And you can even just do so simply by maybe not being on any kind of a task force, but just writing into your MP or giving them a call and letting them know what's on your mind. So if you think there is something that we should be doing or looking at, please let us know what that is so that we can feed that into the appropriate ministers and into cabinet as to the needs of the community. Or if you've got creative solutions, that's excellent as well, because sometimes we like to, and that's just human nature, let us know what things are not going right, but also providing some type of solution or idea is ideal at the same time. So I think we've been doing great when it comes to different supports for our community, and I've gotten really good feedback on all the different supports. So I hope that Canadians continue to do the good job that they've been doing. I know that some of it is not due to their fault. Some of it has been due to lack of messaging or community appropriate messaging. And I think we're learning from all of that as well. Trying to work better together from the different levels of government. That's definitely been an issue that constituents have brought up, and what we are being mindful of from the federal level, that we need to be there to support our provinces and our municipalities and need to have that open communication with all different representatives. So we're committed to that, and we're committed to making sure that we're focused on Canadians and not ourselves, and playing the blame game between different levels.
Absolutely, and Positive Assure Canadians, thank you so much for your efforts. Thank you for your representation, of course, and representing the issues. But of course, thank you so much for having joined me on the Yout Turnt show today. So much covered, and definitely to you at home, thank you so much for having tuned in with us here today. Huge shout out to my in-studio team for getting us ready and looking all bedazzled each week on your screens. But of course, another huge shout out to our sponsor, AOF Immigration Canada, who supplies and specializes in all your immigration needs, ranging from permanent residence to Quebec Investor Program, a caregiver program, student visa, whatever your need might be, they have you covered. So of course, just contact them for your private and your confidential consultation. They are the phone numbers rather is 416-629-4617, or you can send them an email. It's at info@aofimmigration.com. And just let them know that we sent you. And as we always like to do it here on the show, just like, comment, and of course participate in all our live feeds. And you can also catch up with all of our past shows now on our very own app, which you can get from the Play Store or the App Store. So until next time, just keep reaching, keep achieving, and of course, keep changing the world. See you next week.
Hello, I am Alton Brooks, your stock market and financial literacy expert. Look out for my new show coming soon on gbkm.tv, Smart Investing with Alton Brooks. Catch us live on Monday, February the 8th at 9 p.m. at www.gbkm.tv. You will learn how to get smart about your money, how to understand risk reward and diversification. You will also receive tools that will help you to become a better investor, which in turn will help create generational wealth for you and your family. This is a show you don't want to miss. See you soon, and I'll see you at the top. Hello.